Hello, everyone. Alex Miller at Capnion here. Since many of us are voting, I thought I would put off my mini-series installment about differential privacy to talk a little bit about encrypted data and voting, and just outline some ways that you could do things, I think, significantly better in a way that, if you look around at our discourse on these issues, maybe a lot of people would appreciate. So specifically, I'm going to talk about how you might further secure a voting machine. To recap a little bit, if you've been watching my past videos, encrypted data in use is the idea that you can do certain types of work on data, certain types of transformations on data, and not actually see the data. And so this is a great technique on its own. People don't have to see your votes. That's great. I think there's some subtle things here about it's really much more powerful than that. And there's a lot of relevance to broader cybersecurity I'll outline at the end. But here's my story. So what do you do with these votes that they enter your system through a voting machine? They're potentially essentially electronic. Well, you count them. This is actually a very simple form of analytics, so great. We can keep our votes encrypted and we can count them. A subtle thing is, well, we're worried that votes could be tampered with. How does this encryption help with that issue? Imagine you're sending an email that's important and I am some kind of nefarious actor. Maybe I can edit your email after you send it. And I can make you say any kind of stupid thing. And then a simple case of this, I could change your vote to somebody you didn't want to vote for. If we're using this kind of encrypted data in use technique, I can't do that in a remotely intelligent way. It's kind of like, well, I can edit your email after you send it, but I have to do it with my eyes closed. Whatever the result is going to be, it's going to look like an email that somebody wrote with their eyes closed, and it's going to set off alarms right away. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to note this ballot was supposed to be the data formatted like this, yada yada, and it's just a bunch of hot garbage. Maybe even can't be counted at that point. So this already provides a lot of protection from tampering. I'll talk about this a lot more in a later video, but encrypted data in use also provides a lot of potential to audit how data is used and provide control for the data originator, who in this fantasy is the voter, over what happens to the data downstream. Right now, you give somebody some data, it's gone forever, they can do anything they want. If they need the key you used to encrypt the data, if they need data about that key, you retain ownership and control, and you're involved in what happens to the data later. And once again, this is a great way to either prevent people from doing something nefarious or at least catch them immediately when they're doing something nefarious and prevent further damage. And so if you looked at some of my old videos about auditability, this is something we've been very careful to bake into our tool Ghost PII in a big way. More on that coming soon. All right, finally, part 3, and this is more for the cybersecurity crowd. What is the more general relevance of these things I'm saying? So some of the big holes in cybersecurity right now, I would argue, one, if you look at apps that claim to be end-to-end encrypted, well, they encrypt your messages, but then they need to keep your metadata about who you are and where your message is supposed to go in plain text in order to perform their work. And this is really leaking quite a bit of information about you that could be useful to a nefarious actor. And I've joked in the past in these videos about end-to-end encryption. If you use encrypted data in use, you can even encrypt this metadata, have really true total end-to-end encryption, and plug this hole. And then 2, in a really sophisticated cyber attack, it becomes really important to edit different kinds of logs that a computer system might be keeping in order to cover your tracks. This is really a special case of this metadata story I was talking about. A lot of these things I said about voting, you could apply to logs as well and make it radically, stratospherically more difficult for an attacker to edit those logs in a destructive way, because while they might have access to these encrypted logs, they are not able to change them in a way to lie to you, because once again, any kind of changes they would try to make, they essentially make blind. Finally, over the course of making this video, I maybe convinced myself that I've been talking to you guys quite a bit about tactical stuff, and maybe I've let you down by not sharing the real big vision for this technology, which is that what does it mean to own data? Who controls data? There's a lot of questions because data isn't like a house. You don't just clone your house and give it to somebody else to do something with. There's a lot of problems with how we think about these things, how they abut our existing institutions, and it's a big headache. And the real power of encrypted data in use is it can transform what it means to own data, control data, and it's actually extremely intersectional in a way I'll talk about in some future videos. All these problems we're talking about, social media, a lot of other things about confidence in voting machines, a lot of areas where information travels around and we don't have confidence in who controls it and how they control it and what can we know about what they're doing with their control. A lot of traction on those problems, and I think that's a big idea that's really important, and I'm hoping I'm succeeding in getting you excited about over time. More to come.